think we can give it a start. And first of all, welcome and thank you to Gerasimos and Vitor, who are here sitting with us for their great introduction. In particular, thanks to Vitor, because some of us, like myself, were not here last year, but you made us feeling a part of this event since last year, and your summary was much appreciated. Now, what we are doing here in this panel this afternoon is discussing about VAT in a digital world. So I will offer just very few initial remarks, and then we'll hear from this stellar panel, which I'm about to introduce. The background is very clear. We have two big forces. There is constant change, of course, in the world of taxation. Everybody who has worked in that world knows it. And there are two forces. One is obviously digitalization, and the other is globalization. And the two forces together have made also the European Union to of course, regulate and try to improve the ways taxes are collected, try to improve the use of the EIT, and for example, with VIDA, we go to the single VAT registration in the EU. As you know, on these discussions are ongoing in the Council under the very clever Spanish presidency. So we are very confident that it may work well, and hopefully we get to a conclusion. But as it is well known, the EU does not only regulate, it also supports, and that's what my own DG does, DG Reform, that supports member states and actually helps member states in meeting for example, the various requirements which exist in different regulations. And I can imagine that once the VIDA, for example, or other legislation is in place, we have some requests on that. But already in the past, we have been working actively with several Ministry of Finance across Europe in the last 7 to 8 years, exactly looking at issues like digitalization of tax administration or developing of digital tools. And we have been looking, for example, a lot at the area of VAT and e-commerce, always solicited, of course, by the member states. We have now, for example, I'll quote one country and one particular report. In Estonia now we're supporting the development of real-time economy and the use of artificial intelligence to simplify. And I go back to what Vitor has told us a few minutes ago. So, as I said, the interest is there from member states. We do realize that member states are asking for the support, and we are more than ready to give it. As you know, the call for the technical support instrument closes in 10 days, is an annual call, so we do expect a number of areas in these, and we have appropriately a flagship. One of our main areas of action is called flagship, and we have probably a flagship exactly in this area. So this is basically the two words of introduction that I wanted to give you, and now it's my pleasure to present the panel. You will see the panel is not only stellar, but I would say also well balanced. So we have, first of all, two members of the public administration, Helena BORGES and Ferenc VAGUJHELYI, hopefully, VAGUJHELYI. I've done some exercise before, so that. And then we have two members of the business, Stefanie BECKER and Sophie Classen. And then we have an MEP. This is, as Gerasimos said to us, is co-organized by the Commission and the MEP. The MEP is Ondrej KOVARIK. And I'm actually very grateful to both Gerasimos and Paul Tang, for having secured such a stellar panel that we have. So with that, and with no further ado, I think we can start listening from them. And starting, so I will pose a couple of questions, and then you look very numerous here, and plus there is Laidu. You all will have the opportunity to ask a question. So the first question, and we go in this order, exactly in this order. So I start with Helena. Is how can the VAT system be adapted to the digital economy? to the digitized economy, sorry. 5 to 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mario. Just let me use a few words to congratulate Commission and the EU Parliament to this excellent initiative where we join business and tax administrations and policy, public entities to discuss such a relevant issue, and we can benefit from the debate on Q&As to improve the way we understand the field where we have to act together. And I say together because it is also relevant that we are in the same panel, business and tax administrations, because sometimes we look at these almost in the opposite side when we have to be on the same side and has good partners if we expect to benefit the way we implement the VAT and we collect taxes with the technology helping and supporting us. I should say that Portugal is very much supportive at this VIDA proposal from the Commission in all these items. And of course we need more technical discussion, some adjustments, some more work to assure that it fits not only the EU project, but it keeps the possibility that in each country we can keep our own projects and we can continue doing our best with what we have been invested in the IT systems for the national approach. Of course, we agree in a common project with standards in information and real-time information, because Portugal has been early adopter of innovation projects in this area, and I could say that more than 10 years ago, we started with some obligations in the area of invoicing. We made mandatory to the business to have certificated software to assure that we have information with quality, and after that we made mandatory that every business has to send in a digital format information about all the invoicings in the they issue, and every business has to issue an invoicing when he sells goods, and every citizen has to ask for an invoice when he buys goods. So we now, and since 10 years ago, we have all the information about the transactions in our country. And we have been learning how to manage all that information and use it in benefit not only of the control of VAT, but to deliver services to citizens and business. We use the information to fulfill declarations, VAT, and to control the deductions, of course. We use the information to control the turnover of the corporate income tax and the personal income taxes that are taxable. And we try to keep it simple and to show the benefits from the society, because we very much talk about tax fraud, to talk about to combat fraud and tax evasion, but we try to talk about the benefits, because if every citizen and every business could achieve benefits from the compliance, it is much more easier to collect the VAT taxes. And that's our ambition, and we have been benefiting from that. Our tax gap have been reducing for many years, and our revenue is, the growth of our revenue is much higher than the growth of our GDP. So when we have all that information, we can use it in an internal way. We use not only to collect taxes, but to calculate or help or support the calculation of some social benefits. And we nowadays send the information to our statistical entity office to use the information to calculate and support the calculation of our GDP growth. So we have a lot of expertise in managing that kind of information, but we only had it in an internal way. This new upgrade, this VIDA project, can help us to have a more complex picture about the trade when our business has cross-border transactions, and in that case we have find some cases of fraud that we can feel that technology added to knowledge can prevent crime. And as you know, the investigation of Admiral started in Portugal, using that widespread of information that we have been collecting, and we put at the disposition of the EPPO to put some more information about the other operations in different countries, and can give us, Europeans, a widespread of fraud that we can combat in the future if we join efforts, if we build a common project, and of course, if the common project don't have the consequence that we have to lose our own investments, and that we can continue taking care of our internal projects. I think that's what I can tell you now, and in the next slide, the next question, I can say something more.
Thank you very much, Helena. And I noticed that thank you very much, Helena. And I noticed that 4 speakers till now, all the 4 have used the word simple in one way or another, but this is probably one of the areas where taxation is one of the, let's say, target point of taxation. Ferenc, the word is to you now. Helena, I missed to say, was the Director General of Taxes, and Ferenc is the Commissioner, the High Commissioner for that. Ferenc.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank Director General Gerasimos Thomas and also the European Parliament for this event, because in my experience, messages can go through on a much easier way with these discussions than on political approach. And for today I have some messages, so I try to drive through these messages now. First, Hungary has a very detailed reporting system regarding VAT. We have an online cash register for the retail sector. This means that every transaction comes in practically real time into our databases from the cash economy. And all the invoices has to be reported real time to our central database as well. And there is a specialty for us that all of the buyers has to report all the invoices where they apply VAT deduction. This means that we have an attachment to the VAT return, and that attachment contains or should contain all the invoices. Of course, this is a lot of information, but very difficult to use it. We have some experience why it is here. Chile and Sierra Leone and Uganda has the same, as I know, the same full coverage of information. And I asked at the Forum on Tax Administration event the week before the Chilean commissioner, how can they pair the invoices? And he told me that they have 2% of orphan invoices. And they use it, 2% of invoices are orphan. I mean that from the, there are reports and deduction on VAT, but the original invoice is missing from the seller side. Just the buyer side reports it. And they use this system for several years. I asked the commissioner lady from Sierra Leone, because they also started to use this system. She confessed that they have no reports because the first reports will arrive in November. But Uganda started this system a year ago, and in the first months, 60% of the buyers' invoicing reports were orphan invoices. So it decreased to 25%, as she said it to me. It's very difficult to judge what is the reporting problem, what are the technical problems, and what are the intentional frauds. It's not obvious. But first of all, let me tell just some words about our VAT directive. It is from 2006. I just mentioned some regulations since that time in the EU. EIDAS for the digital identification and trust, GDPR about privacy, PSD2 for financial services, the MIFID or MiFID II for the digital assets market, the Digital Services Act, and the Digital Market Act. There are phenomena, and there are business approaches in these regulations that was simply not existing in 2006. The way we deliver services and goods, the way we pay for them, are very different in some business sectors. And we have to interpret that, let's say, old directive on the way now we are doing business today. Does it mean that it is obsolete? Not necessarily, because we are mostly talking about platform services and global company services. But our European small and medium businesses are doing practically the same business as in 2006. So this means that we have to live with these two words together. And we can manage them. And we can employ and design our risk assessment tools and all the administration tools, even how we train our tax auditors for both of the words. And it's not easy. If you have many data, then it's a big problem. So, it's very, very difficult to identify the business partners in the digital world, because small and medium businesses use email. And they know just each other's domain name and email address. They don't use EIDAS. They don't use the digital signature of the regulation. So if they don't know each other, how can the tax authority recover who they are? Of course, the audited company we can identify, but the other party. So these are very difficult issues. And on the other hand, at the fintech and banking industry, there are very strict know your customers rules, the KYC rules. So what VA system is that if we can hardly identify the partners, the nature of the deliverables, the place and the date of the sale, and the value if they are using crypto. We always want to catch the crypto transactions when they transfer it to fiat currency. But in many cases, it won't happen. It will never happen because this is a shadow world where they can reuse their currency. And how can we manage the VAT in this case? And corporate tax and so on. So it's not, hopefully they won't pay the salaries in crypto assets because it will be another problem. And we know more or less the blockchain solutions. But there are new challenges for blockchain solutions as well. The zero knowledge proof blockchain systems. When you don't have even a digital signature, you just answer to challenges for mathematical questions. I don't want to go into details. But you even in information from the information theory side, you are in very difficult position to identify the partners. And there's a next issue, the abstraction level of the business. We are about 18,000, the National Tax and Customs Administration of Hungary. And we have very good auditors. But it's a big challenge for them to follow and to reveal from the digital footprint of a business what the real business activity is behind. Because it's a new word. For a 50 or 55-year-old auditor, it's not an easy question. So we have to train them. And this is why many frauds will remain hidden from the human eyes. So we have to employ artificial intelligence, mostly deep learning methods. The way we are thinking about audit has to change. Because we cannot go on the same way as we did it before. So I'm sure that I have a big hope, that is VIDA. VIDA changes the way we think about data collection in the VAT and tax audit opportunities. It will open a lot of new cooperation between member states and tax audit. So my answer for the question. Collect as much data as you can on transaction level, on sales and purchases as well. The second one is the training for the audit staff. We have to share experiences between member states, and I suggest to nominate member states to be a center of competency for different industries, because it would be very useful. It's an informal, it's not an institutional cooperation, just an informal cooperation. And with the lots of data you have, train your deep learning models as much as you can. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to you, Ferenc, and for sharing experience. As you know, since a year we have launched a program called PACE, or PACE, which is a sort of Erasmus for civil servants. It's becoming more and more popular in your area, and that is probably the best way to share experience. I saw Stefanie nodding vigorously sometimes, and other times being more Sphinx-like. So I'm sure she will tell us what she liked most and less.
Okay. First of all, I have to switch on my screen to see something, to see digitalized. First of all, I'd like to point out that I'm really glad to be here to give you an insight into the business perspective and the tax advisor's perspective. And my big thanks in the beginning will be to the Commission to start this VIDA, because I think VIDA is really a point. It's a first step towards being digital in the VAT, in the field of VAT. But furthermore, and I think this is the main aspect as well, VIDA can be an impulse for businesses to go digital. Because when I don't talk about the big companies, I'm talking about the SMEs, I'm talking about the micro businesses that form a really big part as well. And honestly to say, I'm also talking about the tax advisors, at least in Germany, we are not digital, most of us. Also talking about the small ones, not the big ones. So VIDA can be or give us a kick towards being digital. And we can really save money, we can save costs, we can save human resources, and we can use them in our core business, being more competitive. And also about not being afraid anymore to act cross-border. When I look to these small businesses, they really are afraid of acting cross-border because they don't know what will happen in the other countries if they have the obligation to register and all about this. And also the tax advisors, I will come to this later. So VIDA can be the first step into this really important direction. But as I said, these small businesses, they are not really working digital. They are all often working still paper-based. It needs some time. And this time needs to be taken into account when you start with it. It needs time to inform them, to train them. Also aspects you said, it needs time to implement it, to find out where implementations need to take place. So I think this is one aspect that VIDA is really important and needs to be realized, but taking into account that it's not at the point that a lot of companies are right now. But going further to the question, is VAT fit for our new models, business model, digitized models? And I want to have a look at this virtual world, especially. When I look to this virtual world, can we really put it under the scope of VAT? And I think there are two approaches, at least in my opinion. We could think about making it fit. The one is a flexible one, looking at the VAT regulation, the directive as it is right now, and think about if we could put these new business models under the directive. Thinking about who to tax, who is a taxable person, what is the economic activity behind being active in a virtual world, for example. Then where is the place of supply? Which country can tax, can put the VAT on? And when I look at the directive, and in preparation for this discussion today, I really had a look into it and thought about, are we flexible in the way it is right now? And I say yes, it is a flexible directive. We have the possibilities. We mainly need slight changes. Maybe having the rule, a virtual world is treated like an analog world. Yeah, if it makes sense or not, it's just a slight change. So this is one approach. The other approach would be finding new economies that already exist, that put a problem in putting VAT on, like for example the platform economy, like we did on VIDA now. We recognize there is a problem, and then we come and change the directive to handle the new economy. This is an approach that gives more legal certainty, for sure, than being flexible, but less flexibility. It's always afterwards. So you can't, you don't have a VAT that can react quickly, that can react on new models. And as we all know, when we look back 10 years ago, we all couldn't imagine what happened during the last 10 years. Yeah, as you said, 2006. I mean, this is even further back. But I think it's important that we have something that works for new economies as well, and doesn't have to be changed every time afterwards. I think at the end the truth lies in the middle. being flexible, but nevertheless having rules for specific cases. But I doubt if it's really necessary to do it, for example, in the directive, or if it's not possible to use guidelines, maybe in a, not maybe, but preferably in a binding, harmonized way that we have the legal certainty that is, from a tax advisor's perspective and a business perspective, the most important thing. When we have legal certainty, we know what to do, and then we can be compliant, but we need it. And therefore, I think this harmonization is important. And then I come back to why I nodded when she said some aspects. I think it's crucial that we work together, every one of us. The national tax authorities, the EU, the businesses, tax advisors, everyone is in the same boat in some way. We all want to ease our business activity. We want to prevent fraud. We want to grow, having a growing wealth. But therefore, we also have or need the will and the ability to leave old structures, old processes behind, and looking forward to a new world, being kind of open-minded. Okay.
Thank you, thank you, thank you very much, Stefanie. This was very, very clear and very well said. We move now to Sophie Klassen. Sophie is the EU Director and Lead of Amazon Fiscals and Custom Policy. I think a company that many of us know, use, and Sophie.
Thank you. Thank you for, you hear me? Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this panel and to give a business perspective as a leading retailer, but also marketplace enabling hundreds of thousands of small and medium-sized businesses on how to further strengthen the single market through VAT action in an increasingly digitized economy. Amazon has expanded into different activity sectors since it started selling books in '95, but our online store business is truly at the core of our pride and success. Over 23 years ago, we, well, Jeff actually, made the decision to open our online stores to independent sellers to help them sell directly to a large customer base and help them grow internationally. As part of our mission and vision to be Earth's most customer-centric company, we strive to first delight our customers by offering a large selection of products, reliable and fast delivery, and great value for money. And this in a safe and trustworthy environment. Customer trust and safety is key in our business. We also strive to attract sellers as part of our flywheel by offering global reach, reliable and fast fulfillment, and tools and services that enable them to give a superior customer experience. We also strive to be a trusted partner by developing tools and programs that support seller compliance, including VAT compliance, and prevent or remove bad actors from the marketplace and also unsafe products from the marketplace. And last but not least, engage with policymakers and with regulators alike to promote a stable and predictable and channel-neutral regulatory framework that is equally enforced on all market players, regardless of their location, and makes it easy to do business, especially for the tens of thousands of SMEs that we support. Now, Mr. Moderator, on your question how the VAT system can be adapted to the digitized economy, we believe that the EU VAT system can be further adapted in three main areas. Firstly, through VAT registration simplification and furthering the single VAT registration concept, which was started as part of the e-commerce VAT package and is being debated as we speak, I think, today in Parliament as part of the VIDA package. Secondly, through making the VAT collection of VAT more efficient. And in this context, looking for ways to extend the marketplace deemed reseller VAT collection mechanism that is currently already in place and that Amazon is applying in certain cases. And thirdly, through equal application of EU VAT rules, not only in the law, but also in its audit and enforcement, and that's where often challenges start, particularly in an extraterritorial context, given that globalization and digitization now allows to deliver scale without substance necessarily in a country of service. As regards the VAT registration simplification, so I think it is now commonly accepted that the complexity of VAT registration obligations across the European Union makes it very costly, time-consuming and burdensome for online merchants to engage actually efficiently in EU cross-border trade and to comply with different VAT regimes, rates and rules. And this means actually that at a time where we are celebrating the 30th anniversary of the single market, that it cannot be fully exploited yet by many businesses, but especially by micro, small and medium-sized businesses, which are the backbone of the European economy. Now, building on the extension of the Union One-Stop Shop scheme to B2C distance sales of goods as part of the 2021 e-commerce changes, we do strongly, very strongly, support the current proposals under VIDA to further the single EU VAT registration concept and Union One-Stop Shop system to cross-border inventory movements, as well as to domestic sales from distribution hubs in countries where sellers are not established. This will, for a fact, empower particularly small and medium-sized businesses to take advantage of the opportunities offered by the EU single market, the asset of the EU. It will also reduce barriers for cross-border trade in the EU, cut down the cost and complexity, not only for doing business in Europe, but also for auditing and enforcing that business. And it will help drive economic growth. So a win-win-win also for governments. Tax authorities will definitely also benefit as a reduction in complexity increases voluntary compliance and hence increases VAT revenues. And in this respect, we would want to note that the EU VAT gap is at least in part not caused by fraud, but also in part caused by complexity and just lack of understanding a very complicated and fragmented EU VAT landscape. Simplification and digitization of existing rules should therefore not be underestimated as a tool to help close the VAT gap. And we do applaud the EU Commission and countries' efforts that they have done so far. And we think there that more coordinated EU action is definitely more efficient than member states taking unilateral actions, which are often suboptimal, given that economy is cross-border, regional, global. And this brings me to the optimization of VAT collection. We strongly support, as Amazon, the further extension of the marketplace VAT deemed reseller mechanism, and more particularly for the following reasons. First of all, and most importantly, the unburdening effect for sellers, underlying sellers, most of which are small and medium-sized businesses. We hear from our non-EU selling partners, where we are already deemed reseller based on current rules, that the deemed reseller mechanism, despite initial shock and surprise with a very innovative concept, to say the least, that actually they do value considerably the administrative simplification it brings, not only from having to deal with VAT collection and remittance, but even more important, for no longer having to verify local VAT rates and rules. We therefore support to expand this benefit to EU sellers, because you could argue it's creating now an other level playing field in simplification. And as the previous speaker said, to have impact, first simplify, then exaggerate. So that's first reason. Second reason, it's worth noting that actually B2B e-commerce, and I mean final B2B e-commerce, so companies doing their procurement of office utilities and other goods for final consumption, business consumption on online marketplaces, is a growing segment in e-commerce that, compared to B2C e-commerce, which is quite stable, I would say, since COVID, is really a double-digit growing segment. Now, expanding the deemed reseller rules also to B2B sales would also enable the single VAT registration goal for B2B sales, both domestic and cross-border, especially in cases where domestic reverse charge concepts would not apply or conditions would not be fulfilled. Important to note that we are not advocating here for including B2B sales in the one-stop shop system, just for extending it to the deemed reseller concept, but then to remit and collect and remit through national registrations. And finally, extension of the deemed reseller would be help gratefully in actually reduce the need for unilateral joint and several liability rules, which currently are suboptimal because they act ex ante in a post scenario. They also don't achieve a meaningful VAT registration simplification, so they don't really benefit the underlying sellers. On the contrary, they often lead to having to take down sellers that actually for good transactions. And also, it doesn't really drive harmonization because we are seeing the joint and several liability rules in France, in Germany, and also recently proposed in Belgium, that they all have different features which make it very, very difficult to operationalize in a pan-EU, let alone global landscape. And then last but not least, the third area, enforcement, very important. Reformed rules bring new challenges in terms of enforcing, auditing and enforcing in a digital trade environment. We do believe that it's super important that new rules are being made up that are not only equally applicable to all traders in law, but also in practice. And two call-outs here that are close to our heart. First of all, the optionality of the import one-stop shop system, which we consider as a fatal flaw and an example of a legal loophole allowing online sellers and marketplaces with no or limited presence in the EU to legally escape paying import VAT on B2C imported shipments. We therefore support the Commission proposals to mandate the IOSS, if not as part of the VIDA proposals, definitely as part of the recently released EU customs reform proposals, where the IOS even becomes a more foundational part of aggregated VAT and duty collection. We also directionally support measures follow the money enforcement approaches like CSOP, VAT, which enters into force next year. But there, the multi-stop shop data sharing experience gives a high risk of burdens that actually still today there is lack of clarity on the implementation of CSOP only 2 months before its implementation. Many countries haven't implemented it yet, let alone have issued IT requirements, and the fact that we have to share that data in every single country and that there is no single data sharing approach like with DAC 7 is definitely, I would also say, a fatal flaw that I wish we had anticipated when we were reviewing the rules.
Thank you very much, Sophie.
Thank you.
I think this was very complete, probably slightly north of 6 minutes, but still fine. What I would suggest now is Ondrej, the final word on this round, and then we'll do the second round a bit faster. I think Sophie enlarged the issue of simplicity that some of us have raised, not only to law, but also to audit and enforcement, and also gave you, as a lawmaker, 3 ideas on VIDA. But the floor is yours, Ondrej.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. And first of all, big thanks to the European Commission for organizing this event and for the invite. And I'm really glad that it's a joint effort together with the European Parliament, as I think we also demonstrate very often working on various pieces of legislation. Unfortunately, not on taxation because we only give consent. But that may change at some point. At the same time, it's a very timely discussion today on the VAT in digital world, because just earlier today we had a vote on the Parliament's position on this Commission proposal, report done by our colleague, Rapporteur Olivier Chastel from our group Renew Europe. And it actually got a very good majority in terms of the proposal as it stands, but also including some of the improvements or additions, as we believe, that may help the application of it. Obviously, it's still depending on the agreement between the member states, but I think the Parliament is always willing to contribute in the discussion by providing its own report. As you said, I mean, all these presentations were more than complete, so it's very hard to add something on top of it. But I think maybe to come back to the basics, the way I see it, and I think it's very important to speak about the VAT in a digital world, is first of all, VAT, possibly maybe with the exception of European budget, is usually one of the most important sources of national budgets in countries, well, worldwide, in OECD, definitely in European Union. So it is actually an important issue to tackle. What we see as a challenge with the more digitalized economy is that there are new business models that are brought in the game, which actually add on complexity of how we collect the taxes. We already know that there is a quite important gap in the VAT collection in Europe. Different, it's quite asymmetric throughout the member states, but in general there is a gap, and we need to make sure that this is somehow bridged. But at the same time, with these new models, monetization of new activities, new services, new areas, or just simple digitalization of the services that are existing but provided in a new way, like for instance the specific areas in the VIDA proposal regarding the short-term rentals accommodation, or the specific individual transport services. I think those are exactly the very good examples to show that there will be actually more challenges with the digitalized economy for the VAT collection. But at the same time, and I'm a true believer in the use of new technology, I think it can actually help also to tackle this challenge from the side of public authorities. I think some of the areas that were mentioned earlier definitely, in my view, would be helpful, and I think we were discussing this on the European level for some time. The simplification of registration procedures of companies, because I think one of the key features of the digitalized economy is that we are less and less respecting physical borders. And more companies, even the smallest ones, the startups that are just being created, they usually start by considering more than their national markets. They know that if they want to succeed in a digitalized economy, they would have to operate cross-border. I come from a country of 10 million, not the smallest one, but not the biggest one, the Czech Republic. We are one of the champions of e-commerce. We have most e-shops per capita in Europe, but most of them are extremely localized because of the complexity of various rules, including the tax rules. And I think this should be one of the ambition, and I fully agree with those speaking in favor of it. I think when we look at the digitalized economy, we should also look at the very basics. It's a value-added tax. So where the value is created, how can we capture it, how can we conceptualize it and monetize it, and then make sure that we can actually also attach a specific tax parameter to it. And I really like the reference to the virtual worlds. I truly believe that this can be actually one of the showcase of how we need to change even the culture and the mindset of it. If you look at the possibility of where metaverse and virtual worlds can grow, and I think we had a really good communication from the European Commission on this specific issue earlier this year, we will see that there will be actually new ways how to generate value, that we will need to be able to again, conceptualize, make sure that we know where it's created, how it's created, and how possibly the tax collection can be attached to it. And this will be extremely difficult, because that can actually completely blur the borders as we know them today, and that can actually also bring a completely new equilibria into the way the economy, the world economy works, it can be easily detached from the geographical notions that we know, the way we collect taxes, etc., etc. So I think there's a lot of that is ahead of us in the digital world. But if I may, just one final comment, which possibly maybe also will bring us to the second part of this panel. I like the mention earlier that this proposal is actually pushing the companies to digitalize, and I think it's definitely true, and we saw it also with other areas. At the same time, for instance, in the discussions in the European Parliament, we were also considering the immediate costs linked to the adoption of whatever new technologies and softwares, systems that will be needed, IT systems that will be needed, especially for the smallest companies. There is definitely this view that the costs can be paid over time, so there can be savings in the future. But I think we should be also considering the immediate impact it can have on companies. Hence, I think one of the proposals of the Parliament to actually go slower with the adoption of systems like the e-invoicing, etc., etc. But I would also turn it the other way around, and this is, I think, also where we are heading with the second part of panel. I believe that this proposal can actually push the public administration to the digital world, so that we can actually use, and I really like the references from our colleagues from tax authorities. Both were speaking about artificial intelligence. So I think, you know, that there is already this understanding that there is technology existing that can help us to make sure that the processes on the public authority side are actually following the trends of digitalization. Because if we speak about digitized economy, it's definitely not only businesses, but the second part of it has to be the digitalized public authorities that can actually cope with the pace of the trend to make sure that the public policies, including the tax policies, are carried out in an effective, modern way, but also bringing the benefits that the citizens and the taxpayers in this regard are expecting from them.
Thank you very much, Ondrej. I think as well this was very clear, and we'll get exactly to that point of the role of technology for the tax administration and the businesses. You made a very important point on the blurring of borders. This is all the more true for the youngsters. If you look how the youngsters bank, for example, they don't do like us. We used to go down and find the bank. They go on internet, they don't care if the bank they found is in Germany, Lithuania, or wherever it is. And this is really an important thing to keep in mind. And you can do it for 1,000 things you mentioned. So not only e-commerce, but also e-service. Now, I would like to open to the floor, and then we'll do the second tour. But the second tour, we need to be much more snappy and fast, okay? We were generous in the first one. The floor is open. Who has a question? Hands up. And the microphone will go around magically. You should know that from here we don't see anything, but I see a hand there. A man with a tie, but I cannot recognize anybody. The micro is coming.
So my name is... It's okay.
My name is
Donato Raponi. I am an independent tax consultant. I will revert your question. Do you think, taking into account of the development of the digitization of the economy, real reporting, invoicing, etc., do we need a VAT system as designed in '62? This is my question, because when we decided in the EU to adopt the VAT system, it was because it was impossible to adopt the sales tax system, because it was too risky to wait the last stage of the chain to collect the tax on the consumption. Now, taking into account of the development of all this digital means, especially also for enforcement, control, etc., payment, do you think we need a VAT system which is very complicated, right of deduction, pro rata, exemption, etc.? I think we need a fundamental review of the VAT system as such, and to think if absolutely we need for the future such a system.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Donato. Donato is well known to all of us, was a former and very well reputed head of unit in taxation. Vitor has a question. Then we go for the replies. We collect few. And there is one more there, I'm told. Vitor.
Thank you. Very simple question to our colleagues from tax administrations. You both mentioned artificial intelligence. Could you elaborate on what is required from the staff of tax administration? What does it imply for procedures in tax administration?
Very good. Third question and last, and then we go.
Hi, my name is Karl-Heinz Heidel. I'm a global VAT practitioner. I just wanted to follow up on what Donato said. I think if you look back, and many colleagues said that VAT is the most growth-friendly tax and is the most, so the fastest developing tax worldwide in the last 50 years. And I think, therefore, as Krasimos Thomas said before, we also need to look into the future and to see whether we don't actually have to think about, is the system still the right system for the future? So I think we need a broader debate here, and I wanted to ask the colleagues what they think about it, similar like we had in 2009, the Green Paper on the future of VAT. I personally think that something needs to be looked at with this in mind, because quite frankly speaking, at the moment, everybody reduces VAT to invoicing and digital reporting. And if we have heard before that we have new business models coming, the economy is changing, we have in the EU a complex and often outdated transitional VAT system. We need to really look at the VAT system as well, implanting, embedding technology into it and thinking about it. How can we together, as the colleagues from Portugal said, tax administration, commission, businesses who are the tax collector for governments, actually find a way to make, again, the European system what it was, because you know VAT was a European invention 50 years ago. And now actually it seems that we have given VAT to the world, and we get from the world back digital reporting and invoicing. And I think VAT is more than digital reporting and invoicing. Therefore, from my perspective, we should think about having a broader debate, which hopefully the Commission will pick up on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. 3 questions, which I think we could address in the reply, because the Caspar question is squared on my question as well. So when we go in the replies, I really beg some of you to pick up the question of Donato, 62, the follow-up question, whether we don't need a VAT much broader debate, and the question of Vitor, which is also mine, what could be the role of technology, artificial intelligence, and what do we need to do to use it effectively, not only introducing it. So we go in the reverse order, 3 minutes, but truly 3, as 3 is 3.
Well, thanks for the question. I think we're just heading to it without going too much around the issue. I think this is exactly what I was alluding to by mentioning that there are actually completely new brand new business models that are being created. Then we have to look at the philosophy of the taxation. So what would be the value, the transaction, the service, the goods that we want to collect the tax from? What is the rationale behind it? And I think it's definitely a legitimate debate, because obviously it can also help the effectiveness of tax collection. If we I'm currently working on the payment services directive and regulation proposal. This is exactly how we see the number of transactions are carried out already electronically. So we are gradually gathering enormous amount of data, and not only companies that are handling it, right? Like the marketplaces, but also the tax administration or the public administration. The only problem I think with the public authorities at this point, and definitely compared to the businesses, that we are lacking in action afterwards. We are very often not able to completely use the data. And I think this is where the technology should step in. The machine learning, big data analysis, artificial intelligence, but also a very close cooperation. And in this regard, I'm really big fan. It's also in the AI Act of sandboxing. I think we really need to make sure that we connect the private and public entities and start looking into where these two meet. And start maybe stop thinking about the competition between them. So the success of the private business would be, you know, I'm paying less taxes because I was able not to declare everything. You know, like these old school look at it, but also to see where they can meet. Because, well, why we need taxes? This is also to finance public goods, public policies, many issues that are actually also beneficial to the society, the businesses in general. So I think this is what we need to explore. Then we may come up to the situation where we redefine the entire process. But I think it's really about connecting these two worlds and make sure that we can use and tap into technology that at least the system that is existing now can actually deliver in the most efficient way, which is definitely not, given the amount of VAT gap that we know today and the complexity of the rules, and then see beyond that. I'm pretty sure that this debate will take place, and I'm pretty sure that this debate will be extremely difficult because we are still talking, and you mentioned it once again, about one of the most important sources of national budgets. And given the scarcity of public funding these days, I think this will be very sensitive debate, but I think we are heading into it because the fully digitized economy, which is still ahead of us, can actually bring so many challenges, but also opportunities that we actually should rethink the way we do it. But I see the way forward, the very close cooperation between the businesses, the private entities, and the public authorities. First, with the exception of technology, and then using the technology in the benefits of the tax system in general.
Thank you, Ondrej. Sophie, your company has a reputation for technology, and what is your experience?
Yes, on the role of technology, maybe specifically touching upon two points. First, one that is very actual and on trend is the need to harmonize and standardize invoicing and digital reporting requirements and standards, and also the need, I would say, in the wake of increasing tax, fiscal, and other non-fiscal data sharing obligations, to actually start consolidating and rationalizing those, because there is a lot of incremental data sharing requirements where actually a data point needs to be shared to multiple authorities for multiple reasons with no specific feedback loop in what it actually delivers in terms of improved compliance, reduced fraud schemes. So with respect to the invoicing and digital reporting requirements, very à la mode now with the negotiations on VIDA coming hopefully to a conclusion soon. We recognize the role that digital reporting can play in addressing fraud and non-compliance, and we really applaud the EU Commission and countries to working hard for taking steps to drive gradual harmonization. We are concerned, however, and that's also with other trends, that actually the risk of baking in unhelpful fragmentation and to at some point already being beyond the point of pivot to be able to harmonize. We see the same, for example, with the proposed extension of the deemed reseller mechanism, where if you wait too long, then too many countries will already have moved forward with their own unilateral suboptimal system, but there is a tendency of countries rather sticking to their painful but known system rather than to take a leap into an unknown, unpredictable future. We understand that views among businesses and tax authorities around digital reporting and differ, and also around the optimal invoicing model. But for us, the overarching objectives should always be common. They should drive simplicity, efficiency, and reusability of existing tech features to allow also to be able to kind of reuse some of the investments that companies, in particular small businesses, are then also making in existing systems. There is a huge technical complexity. I think the technical complexity of implementing those systems is underestimated significantly on the side of businesses, but also on the side of governments to actually have to adapt their systems and audit and enforcement approaches to those new systems. Regarding the tax data requirements, very briefly, so marketplaces and digital platforms are already in the middle of collecting and sharing data to strengthen enforcement of existing rules, whether they are fiscal but also non-fiscal. We are working extremely hard to comply with DAC 7 and CSOP, and it is critical that future initiatives really leverage the existing models, thinking around data minimization, centralization through one-stop shop data sharing. We already know the one-stop shop for registration, but a one-stop shop data sharing. And really, as MEP KOVARIK was saying, piloting and testing with the businesses what the operating model is and what the effects will be of this data sharing, because more data doesn't necessarily mean better data and better insights and risk management out of that data. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Sophie. Sorry.
Stefanie. Okay, I try to be quick and short, as you said, concerning the time. I'd like to focus on this, what we already discussed sometime, this artificial intelligence aspects and how we could use this. And I think, as we heard, data collecting and running the data through this artificial intelligence, this is some part and an important aspect as well, as it's really working. But we should think one step further and use these AI models for being more creative, like really being concrete, thinking about we are all afraid of fraud mechanisms, and how could we use AI to create, for example, a new fraud mechanism? We create one, and then we run this new mechanism that the AI created for us, and find the fraudsters, the real ones. So I think not only using it in a old, maybe it's not the right word, but world, but thinking one step further, or also using it for more automatical processes. The way we declare the VAT right now, declaration, and then it goes to the authorities, and maybe it comes back, then we pay. It all can in the usual way much quicker if you use the artificial intelligence from the declaration till the payment. And the payment is then also run automatically in a real world. It doesn't need to be periodically. It can be in real time. So if we really use, and this is one of the points I think is very important, we should use the artificial intelligence in its whole possibilities. Also as an informational portal from the tax advisor's perspective to know about the cross-border influences, about in your own language, get the information from the other countries. But for sure it needs I think it needs a long time to realize it, and a big working together between every kind of influencers. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ferenc and Helena, with particular attention to the question of Vitor.
About artificial intelligence. I usually define artificial intelligence when I compare to the classic, the traditional analysis, is the difference is that the model is made by human beings in the traditional way of analysis. You build up data cubes, and you have a model in your head how you want to reveal, for example, a fraud, because you have a model of that fraud. In the case of artificial intelligence, it's very different. You do not pre-structure the data. There is a data lake, it's flowing in data, and you only decide what to analyze. And it's a very important question on political side as well, because of the coded bias we have heard about a lot. So it's important, but it's not an easy decision, but you have to decide what to analyze. And the model is made by the deep learning algorithm. So if a behavior or your position in the data space is deviant or not, it's given back by the algorithm. And then a human being has to decide what it does mean, the semantics behind. Because there is the mathematics will give no semantics for you. And it shows, the whole of my explanation shows that tax auditors does not need to learn data science. They does not need to learn mathematics. They need to be an expert in their industry, let's say, so in their field, and it's very important. The other question, and there are very good papers about it. If somebody sacrifices the time and try to find some good papers on tax, on the use of artificial intelligence in taxation, then you can find it in ResearchGate or in Deep Dive and so on. The other question, whether we have to use the VAT or a kind of sales tax would be good. It's an interesting question. This is the first time I hear this question in Brussels. and I think sales tax is very different. So now we have the data from the issuers and from the recipient side as well. And we can see that many times the buyer does not know whether they are the final user of the goods or services. For example, you buy a car for an employee and you don't know whether it will be a benefit or it will be used for provide services for technicians or something like that. If there is a sales tax, then you have to decide it in advance. And there are a lot of other cases where VAT can be much more flexible, and you can make the decisions on the next month. So it's a and one more word, and I'm out of the 3 minutes. So now, without collecting the data, and I have to emphasize it again, without collecting itemized invoice data from both sides, I mean the seller and buyer sides, the VAT can be used, the VAT tax return can be used as a free voucher on the account of the National Treasury. Because the probability of being selected is extremely low. And this is low because we have very few human auditors. And the artificial intelligence and data analysis can increase that number. It is usually referred as alpha in the scientific papers. It's next to 0 now. And it can be increased to 100% if we introduce a good analysis. But the data, the business secrets, and mostly the privacy has to be always abided. And it's very, very important. If we do not do it, then it's a net loss on the trust of the society.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Helena, you have been very patient, and you are one of the few who has respected the timing, so you get 2 minutes more, and the freedom to choose one of those 3 questions and respond. They see the questions on the big screens. I think the first one is very beautiful. Is blockchain. I think this is inspired by Stefanie when she said from beginning to payment. The second one, VAT is the second reason of bankruptcy. And the third one, I think it comes basically from there. VAT system, will it exist in 20 years or not?
Maybe the last one is my choice. I think the VAT, the technology and on VIDA can transform the way we act and we manage the tax system and the way we collaborate with business. Maybe in the future we will share data, and business should have nothing to comply. If they send us the information and share with us in the proper way, maybe we can do and prevent, they have to declare whatever they have. And if we use the artificial intelligence to make it simple and to make it clear and assure that certainty is in the field, that business know that if they comply, we don't have any needs of control, audit controls, and that we use all the information we have to prevent the needs of new interactions about the trade we manage. I think we can come to a seamless taxation on VAT. And if we achieve that goals, I think we could benefit from the technology on the VAT and use more than we use today artificial intelligence to support the chatbots and the information with security that business need to comply, and tax administrations need to focus on prevent tax fraud. That's where we should act, to prevent tax fraud, because when we can combat after it happened, it is too late. We should use artificial intelligence to detect patterns that we shouldn't allow. And if we focus our resources, if we select our talented people, if we invest on our staff knowledge and in our IT systems, I think we could make a good job, and business could concentrate on business and not on taxation. Because who paid tax are the citizens, not the business. Business has an exigent role to be able to be a good partner to the tax administrations. And sometimes we look at us in different pictures, and we should be partners. We should be able to use the technology to help you manage your job. And in that way, it will be easier to collect our VAT revenue. But it requires that we work more together instead of fighting each other and being in different positions. It's my role, and I think that's what we need from you, that you organize your information and that you share with us it properly organized and with high quality, and we should give you back services and certainty. That's what we should work on. It's my position, and I think if we have more and more ability to work together and have a common understanding about what the budget expects from us, we will be able to succeed in that difficult world of VAT taxation. Of course, we are not thinking about these difficulties in what we should tax, what is the added value. It is another problem and a high-level discussions. And of course, technology could help, but it could also make it even more difficult than it is today. Not because if we think about the new realities and new business models, technology had problems and different challenge that we didn't face yet. But working together, building a trust and collaborative ambience between tax and customs administrations and the business and the legal bodies who design new laws that we have to apply, if they can listen to our worries, and if governments do the investments they should do in our tax and customs administrations, and business do the same, we will be able to achieve seamless taxation in VAT. That's what we all expect, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Helena. I think the two concepts, artificial intelligence as a predictive tool and more consultation and more working together, I think they are well taken. I feel satisfied by these replies. Vitor, are you satisfied artificial intelligence as a predictive tool?
If you don't mind, Mario, just one word to answer to Vitor. I think, of course, we talk about artificial intelligence, and we should be very careful to assure that trust in our bodies and the business is on, because citizens are more and more sensitive about ethics and that data protection, and we should be careful when we talk about the use of this technology to tell them that we are aware of our obligations to protect them, their data. That's it. Because trust is essential to assure that we can continue having more and more information and that we can use it. Because if we collect information, we have it, and we don't have the acceptance from the owners of the information that we can use it in benefit of all, it is not, we cannot have the results we need.
Very, very true. Okay, I think we are at the very last round. The exercise gets more and more difficult every time. So now there are about 200 people in this room, and there are about 1,000 people listening to us at home. And I'm asking to each and every of you in 1 minute, so you may want to choose 2 words. What would you like them to bring home and remember from these last 90 minutes we spent together? We start from Helena, and then we go in this way. 1 minute, 2 words.
Oh, yes. I will use my last words, collaboration and trust. I think Vitor Gaspar told us the same, because it is the key for the work we have to develop in different networkings we promote. We should talk about it and ask questions to understand if there is anything we can do to assure that our ambience, our playing field is plain of collaboration and trust. If we achieve it, we can continue working and designing the future we dream about and have to put in practice.
Very good. Ferenc?
So, thank you. So who will punish a self-driving car? Nobody, because it's a program to abide the traffic rules. The same, if we provide good services and show back the information we collect to the taxpayer, then the importance and way of penalties will decrease very much. And collaboration and partnership will be the definitive way in the between the tax authority and the companies.
Very good. Thanks. Stefanie?
I think VAT can be a driver towards digitalization, towards going digital, but it needs, I'm totally with you, it needs open-minded people behind, it needs a lot of work together, find compromises, and we all have the same goal, and we shouldn't leave this out of our mind. We want less fraud, and we want easier business activities, and it's a journey to 2050. And I hope in 25 years we can look back to this day to day and say, yes, we started an effective and a well-working system.
Thank you very much. Sophie.
So first word would be consultation and cooperation, definitely, in kind of thinking ahead in what kind of all these reforms for new realities bring in terms of new enforcement challenges, for example, in a digitalized world. And then secondly, I would also say level playing field, not only in the law, but think ahead already in the enforcement of the law. IOSS mandate comes to forth, but I'm a little bit obsessed of that. And there was a question, I think everybody seems to agree that VIDA is an amazing achievement. So let's adopt it fast, please, for anyone who has a say in that debate. Perfect is the enemy of good. So there is still next mandate to then close further gaps in strengthening the VAT registration concept, in extending the marketplace, the role of marketplaces where it makes sense in collecting VAT and duties, but let's adopt it now, because simplification of registration for small and medium-sized businesses is urgently needed. They need it now to enable their growth and to allow for more revenues for governments who are looking for those.
Thank you very much. Ondrej, le mot de la fin. There is a ball to smash, I think.
Thanks. So I just wanted to follow up that we are doing our best in the European Parliament in terms of adoption of VIDA, but as I said, we only have consent. I make sure I convey this message to colleagues to have an early vote in the plenary session as well. But I think, well, I mentioned it already. I would definitely underline what has been mentioned. I think we really need to work on a collaborative culture. But this is just maybe a little bit beyond the collaboration between the businesses and the private authorities. I think this would be definitely essential and needed. But I think it has been mentioned earlier, let's also work on the cooperative and collaborative culture between the jurisdictions, between the EU and others, because I think one of the aspects of the digitalized economy, it's also it's global by nature, and we cope with similar challenges. And I think maybe these two words that I would say here, let's really try to achieve maximum simplicity in the complexity. Because the digital world will be more and more complex. Even the tools that we are using are more and more complex and really requires very specific skills for people to understand. And I don't pretend to be expert, but I think they have a great opportunity to actually bring the overall simplicity for those who are either final users or those who are contributors to it. And I think this is a sort of a message that I would like to send to the audience today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to you all. 1 minute delay, I hope is acceptable. Thank you to all. Please join me in an applause to the team. Not the fault of Helena, for sure.